Hello class, welcome to Unit 1.6, Comparing Real Numbers. To get started with comparing real numbers, a few key words are going to be absolute value, which is the distance the number is from 0. So this should be always positive. It doesn't matter if it says a -7, and that would equal 7, or if you just had the square root of a +7. If you think of the number line, both of them are 7 away from 0. So absolute values are always positive. Ascending order, some of the directions will say put the numbers in ascending order, which is just going to mean from least to greatest. And if we're looking at descending order, this is putting numbers in order from greatest to least. So that's going to be pay extra attention when the directions say these two words. Okay, let's move forward. For example 1, ordering real numbers, what we're going to want to do is take all of these points and get them in some type of order. The easiest way is using a number line, so you'll see that listed out here. But it's probably going to be easiest if we can get all of these radicals, fractions, anything with pi into a decimal before we start. So let's get the calculator out and take a look how to do that. So take a look at the calculator on the right. We have all these square roots already done for us, but in the calculator, you will find the square root down here above the x squared. And anytime we want to get anything in those blue corners, we are going to have to hit the second button first, then the square root. So that's going to be how we get those numbers on your calculator, or if you're using some other calculator, you'll have to figure that out. But let's just take a second here to look at each of these numbers. If we look at the square root of 2, that's coming in at the 1.4. So we want to do our best to kind of get these values in here and keep them labeled as we go. Like I said, if you're, as you might help to write them down over here by the numbers as you're working through these. Alright, if we look at the square root of 17, that's coming in at the 4.1. So that's going to be somewhere over here. And that would be our square root of 17. We keep looking through, and now we're at square root of 11, which is coming in at 3.3. So that's going to come somewhere in the middle here, which is now the square root of 11. If we look at the square root of 8, that is coming at 2.8. So that's going to come in somewhere right about there. And point E, square root of 5, that's coming in at 2.2. So now that we have these in there, and then using the number line to, help us order them, we can kind of conclude that our order is square root of 2, square root of 5, square root of 8, square root of 11, square root of 17. And we now have them in order. Again, we're going to have to, what you see here is what we're going to call ascending order. If we put them in reverse, they're going 17, 11, 8, 5, 2. That will be what we call descending order. Okay, take a few minutes to work on practice 1.6a. Be sure to pay attention to those words ascending order, descending order. Also would take a minute to use your calculator to convert them all to decimals and plug them into a number line if necessary. Alright, make sure to check your work when you're done. In example 2, we are going to be comparing real numbers. So what we're looking at is solving each of these. Once again, it's probably going to be easier to get them into simplified form, or at least all in decimals, as we try to work through these. So if we're looking at the square root of 49 compared to 7.1, well, square root of 49, that is a 7. Well, is 7 less than 7.1? Yes, it is. If we're looking at the square root of 17 and the compared to 9 over 2. Probably going to need a calculator for this one, so let's plug that in and see what we get. The square root of 17 is 4.1. And if we look at 9 halves, that is 4.5. So that's 4.5. So 4.1 is less than 4.5. If we look at example C, square root of 38 compared to the square root of 42. Well, just using my knowledge here of square root of 38 compared to square root of 42, 38 is clearly less than 42, so we have another less than. And if we look at example D, we're looking at the square root of 32, which is 5.6. And if we're going to compare 5.6 to 5.1, that is greater than 5.1. Okay, take a few minutes to practice 1.6b. Make sure you're completing those statements with the correct sign. And also take a look at the 3 questions below and make sure you have a reason to answer them as well. Alright, make sure to check your work when you're finished.